Thanks to the support as a channel member or handguck. The only thing standing between us and the Champions League final is my former club Preston and that pesky Stephen Ferguson who just won't leave. Hello and welcome to Club 6, part 15 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have both legs of our Champions League semi-final against Preston. Since you were last with me, we've won the Premier League. That victory over Tottenham was enough to get the job done. We did then lose to Wolves straight afterwards, but it doesn't matter. Interestingly, Wolves are right up there in second place in the Premier League. I think it's an unusual position for them to be in. I don't know what's happened at Wolves this season. The manager's been there for 5 years. It's not that they've had any major new money come in. I don't really know why this year has been the year for Wolves, but they've shot up and still are competing for a Champions League qualification spot. But what they're not going to be able to do is win the league, because we already have, which means if we head to the Hall of Fame, you can see that we now have more competition wins than Bob Paisley, who we're chasing down. We have 7 domestic divisions compared to his 6. Problem is, his 6 were all Premier League. Our 7 does include the National League North, which I don't think is worth as much. Neither is La Liga or Serie A, apparently. We've now got the 2 Premier League wins, but we are still behind him. I don't know if winning the Champions League and potentially a Club World Cup as well will be enough to catch him. I guess there's only one way to find out. This is the team we're putting out there for this first leg against Preston. We've got Blanco in goal, a back four of Peralta, Corgi, Kudimbana and Wilson. Gabriel at the base of the midfield. Bellingham and Jalili ahead of him. Jean Carlos on the left, Borges on the right. Aspas up front. We've actually been playing Casper Boy a lot in the Premier League. He could end up getting a Premier League winners medal having come back in January. And I think I'm getting to the point where I'm preferring Borges and Jean Carlos over Kone and Jallo, although Jallo is just recovering from injury. But we've been rotating a lot, which is why the team looks a little bit different to, I guess, how it would normally look. And it's certainly, at this point, not my first choice back four. Boy is not in our Champions League squad, but he would be in this team if we were playing in the Premier League. So we'll be fine. I'm sure we'll be fine. Boy, of course, is a left-footed centre-back. So, another one of them. You can never have too many. I am looking forward to Jallo being back from injury, just to take some of the pressure off of Borges, who is playing pretty much all of every game at the moment. He's getting a lot more football than he perhaps would have expected this season. But Aspas is in. He's fouled. It doesn't matter because Jean Carlos has his 10th goal of the season inside the first minute. And he's not necessarily a better player than Kone on this left-hand side, but that's what he offers that Kone doesn't. Kone, very much an out-and-out winger, whereas Jean Carlos is an inside forward on that side, the same way Borges and Jallo are on the other one. Gets in closer to the striker and he's there to do things like that. And that is a huge vindication for playing him over Kone from the start in this Champions League semi-final. Looking at the Preston team, there aren't many players left in that team now who are my boys. We'll have another look at them in a second, but first we have a corner, because this is the other thing Jean Carlos is great at. His set-piece delivery is better than anyone else we've had in the entire series. It is just glorious. McGuinness is a player we signed, Sartori, Mansir. I think they're the 3 in this Preston team that I brought in. It's a long, long time now since I managed Preston. It must be getting on for 10 years since I left Preston. Certainly 10 years or more. I mean, it's well over 10 years since I arrived at Preston, but it probably is getting on for 10 years since I left. So there's not that many players who are left there. So although they've grabbed an equaliser, doesn't mean anything to most of them, because they've got no beef with me other than the fact I tried to get their manager sacked back in the summer a couple of years ago when I was at Juventus and declared interest in the Juventus job. That's poor from Kudimbana, another player, another centre-back we threw a lot of money at, and I'm not really happy with. It's a long list of centre-backs that applies to at this club. We probably should have saved all of the 40 or 50 million pound amounts and just gone out and got de Klerk or somebody along those lines for 80 or 90 million, or just waited for Boy. Boy would definitely be starting today, like I say, if he were in the squad. But that is definitely a foul. There was a suspicion of a penalty in the lead up to the first goal that we've scored. Jalili has been tripped there as he's trying to grab us a second. And that's, I mean, if that's not a penalty, I'm writing a letter to my MP. It is a penalty. We're fine. I don't need to buy a stamp. Jalili then to step up to take the penalty that he won. Come on. Come on then. And he does. 2-1. I think we might be having one of those semi-finals, boys and girls. 2-1 already inside the first 27 minutes of the match. We're going to have a basketball score if it carries on like this. If we could avoid conceding anymore, that would be nice. Of course, this is only the first of 2 legs, so we want a decent cushion. Ideally, we'd always be away from home in the first leg of these 2-legged affairs, but if we do have to be the home team, we kind of want like a 3-goal cushion going into the away leg, just to make things a little bit more straightforward for us. And Aspas is in for number 28 of the season for him. And despite being in and out of the team after the return or the arrival of Sen to Liverpool, he's still our top scorer this year. Aspas, after all the doubts that we had both at Barcelona and here, he is a goal scorer. He is racking up the goals for us again. Doesn't ever get to start for Spain because Sakuna plays ahead of him. But he does, I think Sakuna plays for, is Sakuna Spanish? Somebody's playing for Spain ahead of him because he's not got that many Spanish caps, but he's certainly hammering in the goals for us once again this year. Now Bellingham releasing Borges, who heads on to Aspas. Hesitation from the goalkeeper, and I think Aspas really should have been looking to square that for Carlos, who is in the middle, although to be fair, he has been given as offside, so it doesn't really matter anyway. It was weird that he suddenly had as much space as he did, but 3-1 up. Going into the second half, if we can grab that 4th and then cut it off there, that's the 3-goal advantage. That'll do nicely, thank you. We'll take a 3-goal advantage down the road back to Preston. Wilson heads clear, and now it's Borges again on the right-hand side, looking for options ahead of him. There weren't really many, so he's decided to go it alone and try and skin his fullback, which it's not his fullback, it's Sartori, who must have 300 or 400 games for Preston at this point. He had a couple of seasons under me before I left. And he did very well to cover Borges and get back and make the tackle. But it's now Peralta with the ball over the top for Aspas, who takes it down his chest, turns and dinks it over the goalkeeper. And it's a stunning goal from Aspas. And that is 4-1. And Aspas is up for this today and is scoring goals for fun. And that was just brilliant from him. I mean, it's just a lump forward. There's nothing special about this pass from Peralta. But Aspas makes it look special with the beautiful control and the little dink over the top of the goalkeeper. Absolutely unplayable. Just after half-time, it is 4-1. Let's just not let Preston... I mean, obviously, if we want to keep on scoring, I'm up for that. But the key now is to just not let Preston back into the game. We have got 1 foot in the Champions League final here, and now it's all about just not ballsing up from here. Peralta plays it back to Corgi, and now Peralta again. Preston, of course, by the way, multiple Champions League semi-finals in their history. I think they've won 1 and then lost that final. They consistently get to these latter stages of the Champions League without being able to get over the finish line. But hopefully we're going to upset them once again. I can't believe I've become the Preston supervillain after everything that I did for that club. I got them where they are today. They wouldn't be in the Champions League if it wasn't for me. I still think establishing them as a top 4 club is one of my greatest achievements of this save. Even though we didn't actually win anything with them, we brought them back to being one of the biggest clubs in the country. And there is number 5, and it's Corgi, and it's a 10th goal of the season for him. This feels like a ceremonial sending Preston back from whence they came after dragging them up to this level all these years later, demonstrating that they're not ready for this level. This is our level. Get back in your box, Preston. Goodness me. 5-1 now. Still 20 minutes to go. 25 minutes to go. There's time for us to add even more. And that injury to Jean Carlos does take the shine off it a little bit. Kone, of course, is a very adequate substitute to be able to come on. He's our club captain. He's one of our better players. And he's been a key starter for years now. But Jean Carlos has really broken into this team over the second half of this season. It is going to be a shame to have to go through the rest of the match without him. We are also going to bring on Sen. I don't think it's time to bring Jallo back yet on that right-hand side. He's still recovering from his injury, but we can take off Jude Bellingham and we'll bring Ramon on for him, swap those two over. And in fact, we're going to make a 4th change and we're just going to bring Filipov on for Jalili because Jalili's on a yellow card and we don't want to risk a suspension for one of our key players. It is going to be Ramon fresh off the bench to try and make it 6. There's a lot of space on this left-hand side of the goal and it hits the inside of the post and bounces clear. Now Kone trying to keep the move going, but run straight into a Preston defender. It remains 5-1, and I'm quite concerned about Jean Carlos at this point. Right, final change. We'll take off Kudimbana, bring on Sugimoto, another in the long line of players we brought in to try and play alongside Corgi at the back. And like I say, I think the boy is the one who'll get it long term. Certainly, if I was sticking around for another year, he'd be my starter next year. Alas, I won't be. We know we're in the final days of my time at Liverpool, and of course, the final days of the save. What we will be doing, though, is a 5 years in the future video. Once this is all wrapped up, we'll finish off the Champions League campaign. We will play the Club World Cup, even though I hate it, just so we can see if it's still a disgusting tournament that I hate. And then right towards the end of the week, we'll have that 5 years in the future video before getting started with what comes next on Monday, which is a lot of fun. I've been testing the database for it, and it's going to be a really fun save. So keep your eyes out for the new save on Monday once I'm back from holiday, because as this is out, I'm off gallivanting in Tenerife. Send me a tweet. Check I'm having a nice time. I probably am. I haven't been on a package holiday for about 15 years. I'm sure I'm having a lovely time, but you know, at LOLLUJO on Twitter, feel free to check in on me, see how I'm doing. You might see some holiday snaps on there. Me in my trunks. Who wouldn't want to? That's probably my Instagram. You'll see me in my trunks, but there's probably me in my trunks pictures out there on the internet somewhere for you to go and find if you're that way inclined. Right, Sen wins the header, plays it across to Aspas. We've got another penalty here, I think. The referee has got his finger in his ear. I mean, 7-1 feels very harsh. Preston pretty much finished off here, but we have been very good and they haven't been. So I guess that's fair. Aspas just rolls it into the opposite corner, to which the goalkeeper dives. It's his hat trick for today. It's his 30th goal of the season. And I mean, that it does seem very harsh for a Champions League semi-final. But at the same time, 7-1 in a Champions League semi-final. Gotta believe that this trophy at this point is ours to lose. Obviously, we've still got the second leg to play, but we are effectively in the Champions League final now. The second semi-final, Leipzig versus Barcelona. Of course, we want the dream final against Barcelona, the previous team that I won the Champions League with, who do still have a lot of my boys knocking around the place. It's a shame Jean Carlos probably won't be part of it. That might be the last we see of him. I guess we've got the Club World Cup. But I'll go and play this Chelsea game off camera, and then we'll be back for the second leg against Preston. Fairly comfortable win against Chelsea off camera, but then sad news, Leipzig have beaten Barcelona, so we're playing for a final against Leipzig, which is much less romantic than a final against Barcelona, but arguably more winnable. They're fifth in Bundesliga. We've already knocked out the Bundesliga champions. This is a team who have to win the Champions League to be in the Champions League next year. So, I mean, I'm assuming we're going to get past Preston. We probably will. We're 7-1 up. This is the team. Blanco in goal. A back four of Peralta, Corgi, Antunes, Wilson, Jaeger, Bellingham and Jalili in midfield. Kone, Jallo and Aspas back together up front as a front three for the first time probably since Christmas in this save, because we had the injury to Kone and then we had the injury to Jallo, and then Jean Carlos started to play regularly. Borges played pretty much every match for a long time. So yeah, it's been a while since we've had the classic front three together, but they are back together today. Jallo can only play 75 minutes, but obviously Borges can step in if need be. And I imagine we're going to score some football goals. We scored 7 in the first leg. Let's score a few today as well. Kone plays it across to Aspas. There's the first of the several we're planning on scoring. Aspas has definitely got the number of these Preston defenders. That's his 4th of the semi-final now, first of the night. And I mean, it does feel bad. I think I did a video last season in one of the early matches when I was at Liverpool, where I did an intro along the lines of, let's show Preston what they could have had, what they've missed out on. Well, Preston fans, this is what you could have had. This could be you charging forward to a Champions League final now. But no, you didn't want to get rid of your silly manager who's got you a mid-table Premier League finish for the second time in 3 years. You wanted to keep him rather than having me back. Well, look at you now. We've won the Premier League twice and we are heading for a Champions League final. Could have been you, Preston. It should have been you, I would argue. But you were too loyal this little rascal who is being put in his place and might lose his job this summer, because with no trophies and I think they're 9th in the Premier League currently, that is a massive underperformance for Preston. Like I say, for the second time in 3 years. That year that Liverpool finished 8th that led to me getting the Liverpool job, I think Preston finished 11th that year. They did get back up to second place last year, pushed us all the way for the title, but they have collapsed back down again this year and failed at one of the final hurdles in the Champions League once again, which is very much a theme of Stephen Ferguson's time at Preston. I wouldn't say I feel smug, but, you know, I feel a little smug. What you going to do? Right, Peralta on the left-hand side, throwing to Kone, and now Bellingham plays it back to Jaeger. He's got loads of space to pick a pass or have a crack from range. He decides to have a crack from range. I'm not going to begrudge anybody having a shot from anywhere when we've got 8 goals in our favour already across this tie. Obviously, we don't want to get too overconfident, too ahead of ourselves. We do still have to finish the job against Leipzig and then the Club World Cup. But I am quietly confident that we should be able to do that. I've got previous in Champions League finals, and we certainly should be able to beat Leipzig. We have to have the game really turn on us for it to all fall apart from here, I think. But, you know, we've seen the game turn on us before. So there's every chance that it's all being made up to look far too easy, just so that it hurts even more when Leipzig beat us tomorrow, which is, I'm hoping that's not what's going to happen. Jalili gets in behind, plays it across to Aspas, and I thought he was there again. It's not crossed the line. I don't think it kind of trickled across the goal line, but didn't quite cross it. So it remains 1-0 on the night, 8-1 on aggregate to us. In case you're just tuning in partway through the episode, is that a thing that happens on YouTube? If you're tuning in partway through, we are the ones who've got 8 goals so far. Kone, a little bit slow there, gives away the ball. And, I mean, neither Kone nor Jallo are old. I don't think either of them have reached 30 yet. But I do think the job for whoever takes over from me here at Liverpool, I would be leaving a note on the desk saying, probably sell Kone and Jallo, cash in, get your 300 million and go with Borges and Jean Carlos, because I think that's what I'd do. I think if I were going to be here this summer, I think I would be selling Jallo and Kone. In fact, with me having to stick around for a bit to do the Club World Cup, part of me is tempted to just balance the books, get Liverpool back in the black and sell them myself, because I don't think they're needed anymore, especially when you've got the young winner, Cannon, whatever his name is, the young Italian winger. You've got Sen, who can play out wide as well. I think you could genuinely let Kone and Jallo go. Potentially, I mean, certainly you could let one of them go. You could potentially let them both go and still be left with a squad that is more than capable of retaining the Premier League title for a 3rd year in a row. Stephen Ferguson might come in and do the job. Have Preston signed Graticos as well now? I've just noticed Graticos is in a Preston shirt. Are they just signing all my boys just for the sake of it? They're bringing in my Juventus players now. I mean, he's a player who's got no previous with Preston whatsoever. I've just managed him at 2 different clubs. Stephen Ferguson has run out of ideas. Jallo has grabbed a goal there. I need to just check. Is that Graticos? They've signed Graticos from you. I think we're safe to click on him now. We don't need to see the replay of this. We need to see what's gone on here. So he's on loan. Wow. Okay. So Juventus loaned him out to Lyon last year. I've loaned him to Preston this year, and he's joining Preston permanently this summer. I mean, he was one of my key men at Juventus. A little bit disappointed to see how easily he's been discarded, but that's 2 Juventus boys in that team. Plus Rojas, who was a left back last time I checked, is playing centre forward for them. And they've got Carrasco is one of my boys, Sartori, Valente, of course, McGuinness. So there are a few more of my boys who've appeared for this second leg. And wouldn't you know, they're playing a little bit better. Right, Borges has actually got a knock from the previous league game. So we'll bring Griffiths on to play on that right-hand side. Jallo's still not fully recovered from his recent injury. And we are going to take off Antunes and bring on Kudimbana. And I think we'll just take off Jalili for Ramon. Nice. easy, freshen things up in central midfield. 9-1 now. I mean, Gratakos is wishing I'd have brought him into Liverpool. To be fair, as much as he was a key man for me at Juventus, I don't think he gets anywhere near this Liverpool team, which does, I think, demonstrate just how good, just how much better this Liverpool team is than what we had at Juventus. So I guess it is fair enough that we've made it into a Champions League final with this team and we weren't particularly close to doing it with Juventus. Shows a difference in quality between the Premier League and Serie A more than anything, because we were absolutely dominating Serie A with a team that couldn't get past the quarterfinals in the Champions League. But there is your confirmation that we have booked a spot in the Champions League. It is Liverpool versus Leipzig, and that, of course, will be tomorrow's video. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos, and thank you very much for watching.